Okay.
last semester.
I mean, I feel like it put everyone like in the same boat. Like it didn't matter where you were, but it just kind of put everyone in the same boat immediately, which was no jobs, no work, hire me.
I mean, it was especially, I think it was especially bad for us though as well, because we were trying to get a visa Anula got hers, I'm still trying to get mine. And like USCIS, the Homeland Security are just like, you didn't work this whole year. And I'm like, nobody did.
Right.
Yeah, so that's really grim.
My gosh. Oh my gosh. Well, this is exciting.
Yeah, so thank you guys for being here. This is amazing. We're going to do a Yale International Student Roundtable with you. And yeah, what? Anthony's a little outnumbered today.
This is awesome. I like being outnumbered. This is great.
But yeah, why don't we go around and sort of introduce ourselves first, name and where you're from and what class you graduated from. As I said, our three guests today are all Yale graduates. So yeah. Kineta, do you want to kick us off?
Absolutely. Hi, everyone. My name is Kineta. I'm from Johannesburg, South Africa. I've been in the US, gosh, my math is terrible, 2013, 2019 to 2021. What's that?
8 years.
8, yeah, -2, great. 8 years now. And yeah, that's like my little intro for now. And I guess we'll dive in as we go.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Who else? Anula.
Okay, great. Hi, everyone. I'm Anula Navlekar. I'm from New Delhi, India. I've been in the US for the last 4 years. So class of 2020, graduated last year. That's about it. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
My name is Doireann. That's rhymes with Helen Mirren, the actor who played the Queen. I'm from Dublin, Ireland, and I've also been in the States for the past 4 years. I was in class of Anula and class of 2020.
Amazing. Yeah, so why don't we dive right on in? Let's talk about what the process is like applying to drama schools abroad internationally. Do you have to, I didn't apply internationally at all, so I really don't have any, sort of information here. Do you have to apply for a student visa first? What's the online application like? Because this is a master's program at Yale School of Drama, you either need to have a bachelor's degree, a 4-year bachelor's degree from an institution in the US or the equivalent thereof overseas. Or you have to be at least 5 years out of high school. And what is it like if you got your degree overseas, having that transfer here? Was there any difficulty, extra steps? That's sort of kind of what we're curious about.
You go ahead. I think with all the processes, you have to audition first, right? Like you can't go to any American embassy and be like, I want and hope I will get into the school, please give me a visa. So it is all about auditioning first. I had auditioned for a school named AMDA in 2013. And so everything was video. They had no in-person auditions for international students. Well, they did, but it was an option not to. And it was just too expensive for me to fly for 1 or 2 days. So everything was video audition. And it was really strange. It was just like, I didn't really see anyone. I didn't meet any faculty members. It was kind of like auditioning into an ether. And I was very shocked that I'd gotten in because I just thought it was like, how do you get into a school without seeing anyone? And so after getting accepted, then it was much easier to go to the embassy and show the embassy, like, I have been accepted for X amount of years. This is how I'm financially going to be taken care of. This is where I'm going to stay. this is where I live. Like, you're just giving so much information about yourself now and about the situation you're going to be in the US to prove that you're not a liability, and you're not a potential liability. And then that embassy officer will decide how long to give you the visa for. So it's normally for as long as your program plus 1 year, but they could decide to give it to you for like 2 years, and then you have to come back and reapply. Well, that's how it was in South Africa. But luckily I got it for the time that I was studying, plus a year. Yeah.
So you were already in New York then when you auditioned for Yale, is that right?
Yes, and that was all in person and just a completely different experience, being able to go to the school, see the school, feel the energy of the school. It felt like a better decision in terms of my personality and the school's personality.
Great. And so then did you have to go back and reapply for a longer visa once you were accepted? Is that sort of how it worked, or?
So my program was a 3-year program. Sorry, it was a 4-year program at AMDA.
Okay.
I didn't complete the full 4-year program because I moved to New York. There's a school in New York, but it was only a conservatory. So you don't leave with a 4-year degree.
Okay.
And so when I came back to South Africa, I had to renew my visa when I got into Yale, because that's another thing, right? Your visa information has to reflect
What you're doing currently.
So if I was, even though I was given a 4-year visa, if I was like at Yale, but my visa said AMDA or something, I could be deported. Like, you have to. So I just had to go home and renew it.
Okay. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And you had to go home to do that? You couldn't do that from the States?
You cannot do that from the States.
Wow. Okay. I didn't realize that. Yeah. That's really tricky. How about you guys? Anula, Doireann, similar experiences, or?
I was not in the States in fact, I think both of us just moved to the States for Yale, but I was living in London when I first applied, and I kind of, it happened for me like very accidentally. I always wanted to live in London for the rest of my life, and I loved it so much, but I knew I definitely was going to train in drama school, and I kind of just on like, I'd like been to the States maybe like once before, so I really didn't have a very good knowledge, and I applied for it just off of, I knew a playwright who was working in New York, and he was saying, no, you should apply for Yale and NYU and Juilliard, and I did it really last minute. So here's one thing that a lot of people don't know about is if you're international, you apply for Juilliard, you have to apply, your closing date is like a month earlier than everyone else's. So they have like a pre-screening or something for international students, and I missed that date. It was like the 1st of November or something. So I wasn't applying until like mid-December, and so I couldn't apply for Juilliard because I missed that date. Wow. I think it's like they pre-screen you so that like online, so that you don't fly there and then, like you said, are in the room for 5 minutes and then leave.
Yeah.
So I didn't do that, but for Yale I had to fly here, and for NYU there was an option to send a tape. So I, like in my little London flat, recorded my monologues and like had no clue. Like I don't know if I'd ever recorded a monologue before, because like it's not really done. And I didn't even know, like, should you do like a self-tape, like here to here? Should you like, I really didn't know what to do. It was, and there wasn't very much like instruction either. They just were like, yeah, record your monologues. So I recorded my monologues, and that was I didn't do any of the rounds at NYU. They just invited me back to their recall weekend from that. So, and I actually don't know very much about the NYU process. Like, I don't know, is that normal? I like really didn't know. I didn't know anything about it. So I just recorded my monologues. I never saw them. Then when I came, when I came to recall weekend there, that was the first time that I had met any of them or any of them had met me. So it was like a very strange, surreal and weird. Yeah, it was very weird. And like, it was quite clear that like I was one of the very few who had recorded monologues, because they all were very like, oh yeah, you recorded monologues. Weird. So it was all very strange. But Yale, I did come here, and I flew here in January, and yes, it was expensive, and it's yeah, it is. It's just expensive. Like, it's expensive to be international and come to college in the US. Like, that's, at the end of the day, it just is extremely expensive, and it's kind of an elitist. It's kind of elitist. Like, I don't know if you can come here if you don't have like a basic level of means in order to come. And I don't know. I mean, maybe Kineta or Anula, maybe you two have some like, I just don't know how you could come if you can't pay for a flight. And if like Kineta said, you have to prove at the embassy how you're going to support yourself while you're there, and you have to show your financial aid, and like, we don't qualify to get FAFSA loans. So, I mean, now at Yale, obviously it's like a huge advantage. Everyone international to apply for Yale now because it's all free. But I just don't know how you could ever come to any degree program in the States if you're international. If you just don't, like, if you.
Right. No,
Yeah.
I hear you. I hear you. Yeah.
Yeah.
I will
So
say
maybe-
to that,
Yeah.
sorry, just very quickly, because Doireann is right? You need money. It's also possible to raise it, right? Like, if you are not someone who comes from means, or, I was very lucky. I'm sorry if you're hearing background noise, New York. I was really, really fortunate to get sponsored by the South African government, like the Department of Arts and Culture. So that, helped my application a bunch, because the money was coming from another source that was a reputable source. So if you don't have means, you definitely have to hustle, right? Like, you have to figure some stuff out and like ask anyone and everyone, and like let people know, I'm trying to do this thing. Like, if they have any ideas or people they can put you in touch with that can help you build this financial stuff, because it really, unfortunately, you just need to have money to do it.
I want to hear from Anula, and then I have a question from the audience.
Yeah, so of all the questions that you asked, one of the things was, which I remember getting freaked out about, was you need to have a 4-year bachelor's degree, or you need to be 5 years out of high school. And in India, at least, a lot of the undergrad courses are just 3 years. And so this just took a lot of like research on my end of all the individual universities that I was applying to check what their criteria was. Some places literally had a list being like, oh, we accept 3-year bachelor degree courses from these countries. And if you're not from that country, then there's like another website where you can submit your transcripts, and they will whatever do the thing and tell you if it's valid or not. I didn't have to, fortunately, deal with that, because the 3-year undergrad course that I did in India was accepted. I did have to additionally take the TOEFL exam, which is to prove your English proficiency, which, I used to get very like, offended that, oh, they want me to prove that I can speak English. But I was like, oh, there are so many people who do not come from English speaking countries. And so for them, knowing English is not like, a first-hand thing. But also to that, I will say, if you are trying to apply to a school in the US, means you're trying to, try to work in the US, and that is going to require you to speak in English. And while, the general consciousness is growing to like accept diversity and people who sound different, that's going to still take time. You still need to be able to speak English if you want to work here, if you want to act here. Or even, the medium of education is going to be English. So you will have to take a TOEFL exam, which again costs money. I personally, I used to feel very happy because I'd worked a bit in India, and I was like, oh, I can use this money to like put it into my, grad school stuff. But when you actually like do the finances, it's like barely going to cover like a few flights, if that. So I was fortunate to have, a supportive family who supported me financially, a network of family who also like stay in the US, so I could, friends and family that I could live with, so I didn't have to, take on these additional costs. When it came to me applying to schools, I thought I would cast a wide net because, I didn't know of a lot of schools, I didn't know which are like the best schools to apply to. And so I was like, I'm just going to apply to a bunch. And so I think I applied to like 7 or 8 in total. And I was hoping that all of them I could do, send in videos so I don't need to travel. But I was told that's not great because in-person auditions are always better because, they're able to see you in person. They're able to like feel your energy, all of that, work with you. So to NYU, to USC, I was able to send in video auditions, and I didn't get through the first round to either, which really freaked me out. And so I was like, okay, I have to go do these in-person auditions. So I had to like take out a month, be here in the US to like go in person, do these auditions. Let me see, was there something else I'm missing?
No.
That was great.
Yeah, that was. There's another question for the audience, but this is really great. We've heard from all three of you kind of just an initial, a bit of a backstory, and I hope we can continue to learn more about your story as we ask more questions. So here's one question, by the way, just my takeaway so far. Obviously, there are definitely extra steps for international students. We all know this, but it sounds like, every step costs money, and even everything, the TOEFL exam, the flights, right? Just auditioning, like obviously as a domestic student, if you don't live in the New York area or the Chicago, you have to fly there, but it's obviously not as expensive to fly from Texas to New York as it is maybe from India to New York. So John, we're going to talk about a scholarship, right, for international students, because we have to create something just to support them.
Yeah, totally.
Okay, Yesha says, hi, Doireann. Doireann.
Yeah, you got it.
Like Helen Mirren.
Like Helen Mirren, or like deer in the headlights.
Yeah. Hi, Doireann. Yesha here from India. Since you're from London, I wanted to know if a 1-year diploma from Drama Studio London would be recognized. I have no background in acting, might build a base. Also, as an international student, how do you manage your finances? Is a student loan feasible? So you guys can probably all speak to that, but Doireann, do you have any insight into the 1-year diploma from Drama Studio London, and if that would be accepted? It doesn't sound like it.
I don't think so. It wouldn't be accepted as, well, I'm from Ireland first, but I was living in London. But I know it wouldn't be accepted as a degree program. Definitely not. I mean, there definitely are still like John and Anula was saying, you not everyone has a degree, but you do have to like have a certain body of work or a certain amount of experience. So I mean, there are other options, but it wouldn't be accepted as it. Like I presume they're talking about like the foundational degree kind of things that a lot of the London drama schools have, which are kind of like prerequisites to jumping off into a 3-year degree program. So no, I unfortunately not. But I mean, Yesha is obviously in a great position to go take the next step.
Yeah, and really quickly before Anula and Kineta jump in, let's hold it down for the bachelor students too. Everyone here is a master's student, but the bachelor students, that 1-year diploma, get into a bachelor's program. The bachelor's programs are world class.
Yeah, and in London as well, it's quite different. Like, in the US, the master's degrees in acting seem to be like the big thing, whereas in London, the bachelor's degrees in acting are the big courses.
Yeah, no, they're great. Domestically, over in the UK, the bachelor's programs are fantastic. I mean, So the other question was, and I want to give...
I'm sorry, could I just jump in real quick? I may, you know, I'm not going to speak to facts, but I think that you can apply without a degree, but then you won't graduate from Yale with an MFA. You get another type of degree if you haven't had a bachelor's before or something like that. So there is some, so, you know, you could go to school, but I don't know what that situation is. It is always best to reach out to the school directly than to speculate.
Yeah, I agree with that. And with Yale specifically, it's a certificate program. So if you haven't earned your bachelor's, you have to be at least 5 years out of high school, or the equivalent thereof, and then you can apply for that program, that certificate program. And then if you do happen to, after going through Yale, go back and get your bachelor's degree, or maybe you paused it and you finish it out, they can then transfer that certificate into a master's of fine arts as well.
I did that. That's what I did with Yale. And I mean, John, we were in the same class. I did nothing different. The education is completely the same. You're not going to be like in a separate class or have different things. You get an MFA training.
Yeah.
Very cool. She did ask, you know, also as an international student, how did you manage your finances? Is a student loan feasible? I know we've touched on this a little bit, but that's a specific question. I don't know if anybody has any insights to that, how they did that.
Through Yale, you can take out student loans through the university, but the rate of interest, the payback interest rate is extremely high. So by the time, and it starts from the moment you take it out. So like we all had to take out a small loan at the beginning of first year, and it's almost, I think it's almost tripled by the time you graduate, because the interest rate, if you're international, is so high because it comes through like a private donor. So it's like really not a great, and it's very difficult to pay back because you just accrue so much interest.
Go ahead, Anula.
No, sorry, go ahead, John.
There are also scholarships as well through Yale, right? And that's through specific donors as well, like private donors, like their individual scholarships. I'm just curious, like as international students, you get all of those resources as well. I mean, I know now for Yale, it's slightly different because now it's entirely paid for because of the new donation. But someone had mentioned earlier about you not being able to use FAFSA, which is news to me because when we apply to college in the US, we're required to do that regardless of our need or our income or whatnot. Can you guys talk to a little bit about that?
Yeah, so FAFSA, we can't, as international students, we can't apply for FAFSA, but we are still eligible for, why am I forgetting the word you just said?
Scholarships.
Thank you. We are eligible for scholarships, for sure. The way Yale worked when we were there is you would sometimes, most students would be required to take a minimum loan to get, so you'd still have your tuition scholarship, or I'll speak for myself. I still have my tuition scholarship, but I was required to take a minimum loan. And that loan is internationally taxed. So there's a whole lot of stuff. There's tax stuff, and there's interest stuff. The interest rate is horribly high, and it begins the moment you take that loan out.
Okay.
And so financial planning is like, I wasn't good at, I don't know if I am good at financial planning. I became better very quickly. Like the first time you see your money leave your account, you're like, whoa. And there's a lot of calculating. Like I'm always thinking in rands, and I just had to stop thinking in rands, because if I was thinking in rands, I would not have spent I wouldn't have spent any money. So I feel like I'm not answering the question about.
Great.
No, that's great. I'm curious, was the financial aid office helpful to you guys while you were in school? Did they provide insight and like, if you're not someone who's good at planning and good with numbers and money and that sort of thing, did they provide additional support as well, or was it kind of like, oh, it's up to you guys?
Think if we would have reached out, I'm sure they would have helped, but it never crossed my mind to reach out to them.
Oh, stay away from international.
Oh, I reached out.
What if they ask you for more money?
I reached out. I had, like, I was just in a position where I had to ask for more money, and my experience of it is there are a lot of students asking for more money, right? So I think that the system is overwhelmed, and that system is 95% American. So I felt that the help that I got was, though genuine and like wanted to help me, not everyone had the information. Like I had to get information from the international office here, but the international office deals with all of Yale, not just the Yale School of Drama. And then I had to get a little bit of information from the Yale School of Drama, but that is mostly for Americans. So there's a lot of like piecemeal information about money, taxes, anything to do with my finances was always a mix of Google, the Yale International Association, and then Yale School of Drama, and kind of trying to like piece all this information together myself, and not always trusting any of it.
I also have a good thing that I feel like probably I certainly didn't know about when I came here, and I heard whisperings about it when I was doing the auditions. NYU students actually told me is that you can use, and this is totally true. People were like, yeah, we think that works. It definitely works, because this is what happened for me is that I got into NYU, and NYU offered me their like full ride scholarship. And then I wanted to go to Yale. I didn't have any intention of going to NYU, but I was having a lot of conversations with James Bundy, who's the dean of Yale, and he was saying, yeah, we can offer you more if you get a better offer somewhere else, because I was trying to bargain more money out of Yale. So then I got this. So NYU knew that I'd gotten into Yale. So then they were like, they must have been like, oh, we better offer something good so she comes here. So they offered me the full ride scholarship. And then I said to Yale, oh, well, I'm going to go to NYU now because they gave me all this money. And then Yale matched that. So that's how I got my big scholarship from Yale. And it's like I essentially just negotiated it. I negotiated it that it wasn't going to change any year. So I was getting the same amount every year, and it was called a merit scholarship, which I didn't know existed. And like not a lot of other people at Yale seemed to have this scenario. So I would still fill out the financial aid forms, but I knew that my scholarship wouldn't change. So it was kind of like you have to fill out financial aid every year, but I knew that mine was just like, because you have to do it. I knew I was going to get the same thing because I'd gotten an agreement that this award that Yale were essentially buying me from NYU, and I was going to have it all 3 years.
That is something we've experienced as well. A lot of our students have that same thing, bachelor's, master's students. One person got not a full ride, but like 75% of Cal Arts paid for, which is the most expensive school.
Wow.
So
Amazing.
yeah, because he got a full ride to a state school that he was going to go to instead, and they said no, we'll match whatever that is in our tuition.
You just got to be brazen about it, I feel.
Yeah, and like you said, I mean, it's just facts, right? Like obviously I kind of have to go there because they're paying for it fully. That's just going to give that school the best sort of justification, because they've obviously accepted you, meaning you've gone through all these rounds and they want you. If you get accepted to a program, there is an emotional desire on the part of that school to have you train there. So, at that point, you do have leverage if you get a better deal from some other school.
And just to clarify, so every year we would have to reapply for FAFSA and financial aid, and your need could be determined to be different every year. So you might not get as much the second year as you got the first year, or the third year as you got the second year. just so that's clear for anyone who hasn't gone through that process before.
Also, sorry, this is another thing that I would find as well, is the tax year in Ireland is different than the tax year in the US. Did Kineta and Anula find this? So when I was applying for financial aid, our tax years, you know, for me it was kind of relevant, but our tax years didn't line up to what the financial aid package was asking for. So what I always did, and it always was fine, I never got pulled up on it, as I just like did my best and tried to figure it out and like wrote in the numbers that I thought. But that is definitely a thing as well, is that the financial, I mean, everything in university in the US is only, I found, geared towards people who are from the US, and any systems that are a little bit different from the US system doesn't quite fit in what they're asking you for. So you kind of have to juggle things and figure it out a little bit and try and make it work.
Yeah. All right. So I just want to quickly mention, we have been talking for what, 20, 30 minutes. Now the questions are starting to flood in. So to the best of our ability, I'll try to go with the questions, and then just, you know, if you have a comment or whatever, I don't know if we're going to get to all three folks on each question, but we'll try to move a little bit quicker just to see if we can finish within an hour. I know we're kind of flexible, but let's see what happens. Priya, what is the full spectrum of the visa process like in the case of India? Like, if you could just break it down. Thanks.
The student visa or the artist visa that comes after?
You said the visa process. So I imagine if she's applying for drama school, what does she have to address?
I mean, I imagine it would be the same as all the other, I mean, if you're international and you're applying, but in terms of the things that you're required to, well, you have the auditions, you're going to have to collect letters of recommendations, which I think are different depending on which schools you're applying to. A statement of purpose, which I learned they give a lot of importance to, because they like brought that up in my Yale interview. They like read that. I don't know, like
applying for the visa though, is there separate paperwork? Because obviously I don't have to apply for a visa as a domestic student. Was there what process do you have to go through for that?
I mean, so because I saw that a lot of the schools that I was applying to, they needed in-person auditions, and that was something that I was able to afford at the time. So I went and I got a tourist visa. I think I had a tourist visa from earlier. No, I applied for a tourist visa, so I was able to come here, stay for the month, do the auditions, all of that, go back home. And then once I got the admission, I was able to use the admission letters and all the documents they give you to book an appointment with the embassy to get your student visa. So I think that was it on that front. Yeah.
Well, that makes sense. Yeah. Like, you know, if you need to apply in person or audition in person, maybe think about a tourist visa. That's an option, right? Do the auditions. And once you get admission, you kind of use that document to speak with your embassy and apply for a student visa, and then kind of go through those steps. Is that about what you did?
Yeah, because not all schools will allow you to send in a tape. And so what other option do you have? So again, I think it comes back to what Doireann and Kineta were also saying, is that this decision to go study abroad is an expensive one. And so, you know, you need to like kind of think about what you're doing, what is available, what is possible, what you're investing in. Yeah.
Great.
Would you also say that you find out immediately at the embassies in India, like you will know by the end of your time at the embassy whether your visa has been approved or not? There's not like a waiting period of a couple of days?
I honestly can't remember, but I don't remember being stressed out. I think for student visas, once you've got your acceptance letter, it's a pretty straightforward deal. I think it's more complicated when you're applying for a work visa and artist visa, which we'll get into later. Yeah.
Okay, got another question. Hey, thanks for doing this session. My question is the MFA really worth the dime? We all know how high the cost can really go for an MFA program. So considering that, is it really worth it?
What do you want in life? I don't know. Sorry.
I think that's very depending on the person. I mean, 100% worth it for me, I think, personally.
I know we're running out of time, so I'm going to try to be precise. I think that, yes, it depends what you want. I wish I had known I could get great education without an MFA. It is possible to do it. It is possible to like find teachers that you love and have them work on with you one-on-one. And in a lot of ways, that's better for some people. An MFA is emotionally, financially, it's taxing, right? Like you leave at the end of it and you're like, who am I? I've spent so much money, and you're figuring out who you are. Like it's a lot. And if you are blessed enough to know at a young age, like at the core of your center who you are, I think it's very possible to get an amazing education without an MFA. That said, I have a lot of doors have opened for me because of the school I went to. So I cannot tell you not to get an MFA. But I do think it's possible to do it without it.
I'd like to jump in and say that if you are, I was young when I applied for my MFA, and I was like on the younger side of the people in my class. And I would definitely recommend, and I wish I'd known this earlier, to go get more professional experience, because doing an MFA is not doing school. Like it is a very professional experience in terms of showing up for classes, the commitment that your teachers and your peers show. It's rigorous. And so, yes, you can apply when you're like 30, 40. There's no age bar to it. Just don't go so young. Like don't finish your undergrad and be like, oh, I need to go get this MFA, which is what I thought I would do. And, I wish I learned more about life a bit before, because that's what I saw from my classes. And this was something that was told to me before, was that and this concept of an MFA program does not exist in India. There are film schools, there are theater schools, but they weren't exactly comprehensive in what I was looking for. In a school that'll give you speech classes, voice classes, Alexander techniques, the things that I was kind of looking for. I lost my train of thought.
I just want to say on what you were saying, Anna, I think that's especially important to get experience if you're international, because something that I'm experiencing now is I didn't have a lot of, I'm so happy I went to Yale when I did. I think it was the perfect time for me, but I didn't have a whole lot of professional shows, and I didn't have a lot of, I didn't have a lot of credits. And now I'm really, really having a really rough time trying to get a visa, because in the time that I came out, obviously it was unfortunate. It was a pandemic, so there's been no work, and all that Homeland Security care about is that you're like a successful actor and there's press written about you and you have credits and you have all these people. So like if you're international, like it really, I think that would be one thing that I would say is just like get as much professional experience, get as much press, like superficial things like newspaper reviews and stuff like that, because that's really going to help you when you apply for an artist visa.
Very nice. Very nice. Yeah. Great. All right, moving on. Hey, what's your advice for a guy who just wants to try getting into a drama school but has no previous experience, but it really interested? If not in the USA, where else would you suggest?
London.
And I don't know if he's speaking about MFA, and not that this is an MFA roundtable, but the guests here are MFA graduates. Advice for a guy who wants to try getting into drama school but has no experience?
Take classes.
Yeah.
Like find people that are inexpensive at the moment. So wherever you are, like look up who are the acting teachers, or who are the voice. I would say look for someone who does acting, look for someone who does voice, and then like movement, right? These are like the main three big things I would personally say. Like find people that are accessible to you right now. And if they have time, take all the time from them that you can take. Do it. That's right.
Yeah, this actually comes up quite a bit. We can kind of move quickly, but yeah, just gain experience, work on material. As much material as you can work on and work on with a reliable resource. Obviously, a lot of people use us to get that coaching and just gain a foundational understanding of how to approach material, how to bring yourself to the material, how to, bring your work to a higher quality. The more you do it, the more you understand it. Our coach Brandon always says the best way to learn acting is to do it.
And that now more than ever, the world is so small. You can watch theater productions from anywhere in the world, right? So find a way to like watch plays, read plays. If you're interested in film and television, watch television, but not as just a leisurely thing. Like watch the people that you love, what they're doing, find out what it is about them that you love, right? And just study people, actors, movies, series, like get obsessed.
Yes.
Because that's free.
They want to know what you guys feel about the new name, Geffen School of Drama. This is for all four of you. John, we haven't heard from you. Share your thoughts first.
Yes, John.
Yeah, I'm fine with it. It's cool. It's sort of changed everywhere, so I'm like, okay, cool, great. I do have a thought about MFAs. We were talking about, is an MFA worth it? And I really think that is an individual choice, and it really depends on what your goal is as an actor. Are you interested in doing theater in New York? Then maybe an MFA would be something that is beneficial to you, because that is looked really highly upon in that particular market. But if you really want to do film and television in LA, maybe that's not necessary for you, right? So really sort of investigating what your goal is as an actor and where you want to end up, I think will influence the type of training that you pursue.
But you seem to be okay with Geffen.
I am, yeah, I'm okay with Geffen.
What about the ladies?
I don't really have a lot of thoughts about it. I mean, the donation is amazing. So like, if you're going to get that donation, then call it whatever the hell you want.
Yeah, I second that. I feel like it doesn't change the training that we received or the training that, you know, the current and future students will receive. So yeah, exactly. Change the name as long as, you know, you're making tuition free for everyone.
That is awesome.
I think it's complicated. But the money, I think like naming things, the name of things matter, right? And yes, but I think it's an amazing opportunity that I cannot wait for the students to come to have that kind of freedom. I think that is a beautiful gift, and fly with that gift.
Nice, very nice. Can you give any insights to work visas for during school and after you graduate? Clearly visas are a big topic. Did we already answer this, or do you guys have any more insights to work visas during school and after you graduate?
So you can,
yeah,
you can get a thing called, if you get like cast in a show or something, say like in the summer, you can get kind of an extension. It's kind of an extension, right, of your F1 student visa, and it's called CPT, and your school has to basically sign off on it, saying, oh, this is an opportunity that that we do not provide here. And I mean, which I think generally they will sign it, and you get, however, a visa, like a working extension for however many weeks that the opportunity is, but those weeks get taken out of your OPT, which is your 1 year post-grad work visa. So if
your CPT and your OPT are separate.
No, they take that out. If it's work.
It's separate. CPT, like, so while you're on your student visa, you get 12 months under CPT and 12 months under OPT. CPT is your co-curricular training, which is like any work study, any productions you do that is related to your school. So that can be productions that you're doing over the summer, or like bartending, waitress work that you're doing. That doesn't count with you. No, sorry, with acting productions. Say what?
If it's not work study, they take it out of your OPT.
No, you can get it under your CPT, because I've done that for readings outside of Yale. Okay. In my third year, where I went up to Chantal, who is one of the deans of the drama school.
Dean of Student Life.
What?
Sorry, Dean of Student Life, you were correct.
Okay, yes, and the financial aid officer, and we were able to like put it under my CPT, so it didn't deduct any time from my OPT. OPT is your optional practical training, which is 12 months of work time, which you can use. Generally, people save it after you graduate. So you graduate and then you get 12 months of time to like stay in the US and work. So yeah, so there are two separate things. Sorry, I didn't mean to like jump on you.
Example of the fact that there's so much misinformation and everyone tells people a different thing. And even amongst like us three, we would have all this different information. We all think we know different things about it. And like, it's hard to know what's actually true. Because that was definitely a thing that we found in those 3 years at Yale.
Yeah.
Well, and like what Kineta said earlier, like a skill you have to develop as an international student is the ability to sort of piecemeal together information from the right resource and then somehow organize it in front of you so you can make your decisions. That's a skill, you know, that is not like a given thing for every individual. So that wasn't a good insight for me. And this was a good thing. But anything else about visas during school and after you graduate?
Oh, yes. I was going to say, you can't really take up work. Like, you know, if you're in school, you can't be like, oh, I'm going to go shoot a film or a series or be part of this theater production. It will just not happen with the workload that you have in classes. So basically, any work you do is still on your student visa, and they're only smaller projects that you do generally in your summer break, winter break, things like that. And then after your student visa ends is when you have this OPT 1 year time, at the end of which you need to apply for your artist visa or your green card, or I think those are the only like options that are available to us. Yeah.
Cool. Hi, I wanted to ask if all of you had an acting degree or background before getting into Yale. Also, what made you decide to get an MFA? Somehow we're going to keep this brief.
I didn't have an acting degree. I had a drama and theater studies degree, and I had some experience. The degree title to me wasn't a big thing. I was going for the school in a nutshell.
That's great. Anula, Kineta?
I did have an acting degree. It was a Bachelor of Arts in Literature, Performing Arts, and Psychology, and the Performing Arts had theater in it. And that, you know, I can speak to that some other time. I don't really know if my degree came to use for my training, other than the fact that it was a Bachelor of Arts degree. Yeah, but I did have other professional experience in film, TV, theater, which I know came to use in not only my applications, but also in my artist visa application now. So again, go work.
Mm-hmm.
When I came to the States for like my undergrad, I was in a business science. Was in South Africa. I was in a business science course, like degree course, that I dropped out of and got into AMDA with. When I applied for Yale, I had AMDA which was a conservatory for acting. So I had some background.
Yeah.
There.
And Kineta, I want to kind of piggyback off that. Like, the second part of this question is why, I want to be clear, why choose an MFA? Why did you decide to get an MFA? Like John always talks about like practical things sometimes, like, oh, you know, I needed to develop my Shakespeare, I needed to round out some of my skills, but also there's an inspirational part of it too, or maybe not. Like, what was it for you? Why MFA?
Similar to John, like I had felt I was getting into audition rooms and I was getting a call back, but not further. And it just kept happening. And I was realizing that, oh, like there's something there, like people are seeing something, but it almost needs a deeper foundation. And so it really wasn't, similar to Doireann, it wasn't necessarily like, oh, I'm going to get this name from it, more than like this school is going to offer me that, the foundational like recharge that I felt.
Yep, just go deeper. I mean, a lot of people who go to MFAs, I would imagine, have an intention. You're choosing to go back to school, whereas, you know, it's kind of we try to guide people to go to college, but not necessarily go to 7 years or, get that extra MFA or whatever. And so that's always a choice. And usually there's an intention behind that. Anula, Doireann, what was your intention in applying for MFA? What were you trying to get out of it?
At the time that I started looking for schools to apply to, again, like Kineta said, I was at a place where things felt very comfortable with my work. And there was a lot that I started identifying I needed work on. And I looked at the schools that I had. I did go to a bunch of schools in India, like, 3-month, 4-month courses, but they were just like surface level. It wasn't like getting deep. And so there was a sense of accepting for myself that this is, I need to invest a couple of years to like go deep into it. And so I started looking at courses. Although when I started looking at schools, I wasn't just looking at MFA schools. I think I looked at schools that were 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. But I was looking for a school that was, like I said, comprehensive in that it dealt with theater, a bit of film, classical, contemporary, Alexander technique, speech. Like all of this was like mind blowing to me. Yeah, and
absolutely. Go deep.
And
that's what I hear from both of
and,
you, and like John too. Like, just how can I get more, deep with my work and go to the wells of what I'm capable of.
And I do want to add that Yale, has a name and it has a platform because of the showcase that we do, which connects you to these agents and managers, which help you in the industry, which is all great. But you can't. And I'm only saying this because I feel like I get messages from people being like, oh, I want to be a star, or I want to make it in Hollywood, and that's why I want to go to Yale. And I feel like that's such a big misconception that you can go to the best named school and that's still not going to guarantee you stardom or fame or any of that. Like, all of us as actors have such different tracks. And given how rigorous the course it is, it has to be a personal journey for you. If you're not doing this for yourself and for your craft, your training, then you're going to burn out. I don't know how long you can last on, I will make it because I went to this school.
Yeah, not long. I'll burst that bubble right now. Yeah.
So we're actually going to lose Doireann here in a few minutes. So I just want to give her the floor to say anything else, any other thoughts that come to mind before you have to take off.
Sorry, I have to head off a little bit early. I have to catch a train back to New York. But no, I kind of feel like everything that everyone is saying, I think probably the biggest thing to why an MFA program is, it's just like John already said, it's such a personal choice. For me, it was the exact right one. And I don't even think that's to do with acting or training. There's lots of other things that you can get at Yale, like therapy and free gym membership. I mean, there's lots of stuff that made it personally fulfilling for me. That are not even to do with the relationships that you create with people. And acting training for me was actually a lot of people talk about drama school being very traumatic, while it kind of is, but also was a very healing process for me in the kind of stage that I was in my life, that if I hadn't gone there, I think I'd have just kind of spiraled down a drain of the bad track of not really knowing myself and trying to fix what was going on with me in just superficial ways. So going to drama school and having this exploration of who I was and going to lots of therapy and doing because acting training is really deep, going deep into yourself, because if you can't go deep into yourself and find all of the gross cloggy things that are clogging you up as an actual person, then it's very difficult to work through those things. So that actually for me kind of healed a lot of trauma that I had. So but that's obviously I know so specific and personal to my situation, but I feel probably everyone has something like that in a way that drama school was the right thing or the wrong thing for them because of their personal situations in life. Mm-hmm. So there's not really a one size fits all. But on that note, thank you so much.
Well said. Thank you, Doireann. Thank you, Doireann. We'll let you go. It was great to meet you.
You too. And I hope I'll see you again soon.
Likewise. Bye.
I do.
That's awesome. That was a great final thought from her.
Yeah.
So great.
I would sort of, echo what she was saying, what Anula was saying with regards to choosing an MFA program. Like for me, so yes, you get into Yale, but not everyone's going to go on to win Oscars and become super famous. And one of the things that attracted me about that particular program is because not only are there 16 actors, there are 3 directors every year, and 3 playwrights, and dramaturgs, and designers, and theater managers, and TD&P. And so you're finding the people that you can collaborate with as artists, so that you can not burn out, so you can continue to create your own shows, right, and create your own material and continue to create and produce as an artist. And this particular school really does sort of provide training for that, and building those amazing relationships that you take on even after you've graduated. Case in point here,
I'm looking at the comments, and there's a lot. So we've hit an hour, and obviously that's totally an appropriate time to cut it. If you guys have a few extra minutes, we can go through a few extra questions. How do you guys feel about that?
Yeah, I have a few extra minutes.
All right. Let's see. Hi guys. Obviously you're 100% fluent in English, but I was wondering if there were any issues in terms of different accents. Was that something that caused any issues or raised any concerns?
Great question. I think there's 2 sides to that, right? There's one side which is like, there's a like slight like, you're so cool, like, oh my God, the way you speak is so cool, like we love it, which is lovely. And then there's like, the other side, or for me, the other side of it is being in voice class, and you kind of have to learn an American accent, right? Like if you're going to school in the UK, you're gonna have to learn some form and get very specific about that dialect. So there's extra work there. Like you're gonna have to do a little extra work, because on top of what everyone else in your class is learning, you're also trying to focus on being able to turn on an American accent without, raising any red flags when you work. And so there is a little bit of tension with that. And I found the longer I was in drama school, the more I sounded like I was a little bit from nowhere. And that identity-wise really got me. It still does, when I'm like, really sound like a nomad. So you do have to come to terms a little bit with, you're gonna lose it a little. You're gonna get something else, but you do lose it a little bit.
I feel like in terms of auditions, you're not required to speak with an American accent. Like school auditions, you can speak in your natural accent or whatever you feel comfortable. You can mix it up, do whatever the hell you want. Even in the training in classes, you're not required to speak with an American accent. But again, like there will be productions, there will be scenes. You're in a school in America, you're dealing with the Western canon. So you're going to have to learn to pick up not just an American, like a, standard American accent, but like different regional dialects, and that can feel really alienating. And that was a big part of my first year journey, was feeling very alienated from the characters that I was doing. Cause I was like, I'm not a Lucy and I don't look like a Catherine and, I don't sound like this, but you just need to trust that it's part of the journey, because, it won't always be like that. You're never going to, you grow out of it. Or like, like Kineta said, you lose something, you gain some things. But yeah, that is, if you want to look for a school that is anywhere outside of your home country, you will need to know, you will have to learn English, unfortunately, because that is the, universal language. You will have to like learn to pick up accents and dialects. And, now having graduated and, I get to do these self-tapes, which say that, speak in your natural accent or speak with an American accent. And kind of like Kineta said, it brings up a lot of like identity stuff, because I don't really know what I sound like anymore. And I feel like my American accent, Americans hear it. And when I talk to people in India, they're like, oh, you're speaking with an American accent, find a way to make peace with it.
And John, what about you?
I'm from Texas, y'all.
Kind of what Kinetic said kind of reminded me of like how my journey was with singing. Like I had no singing background and wasn't a good singer. I had an athletic background. So we used to, like, when I was a kid, scream at the top of our lungs, cheering for our teammates, you know, and like that obviously created bad habits that I had to unlearn. And obviously, like what Kineta said was sometimes you have to be okay just kind of working harder than your classmates because you're dealing with something based on your background, you know. And I definitely had to do that with singing. It was so embarrassing, but I had to deal with the fact that like I just have to work longer and harder to like literally reframe things.
Honestly, Anthony, you saying that just reminds me that everyone in your class is coming from somewhere, right? There is something everyone has to work harder at, right? Like, yeah, I say like I had to work harder in voice and speech on my accent, but like you were working on just, you know, habits that you had learned. And so that really does remind me of something I want to say, like everyone in your class is working on something. So like bring your stuff, like bring the stuff you're not good at and bring the stuff you feel a little weird about and like self-conscious about, you know. Generally, most people in your class, I mean, in my experience, are there for you. Like, and they are going to the best of their ability. Sometimes you need more and less, but bring it all, like the stuff you're nervous about, all these questions, like bring that with you to the school.
100%, 100%. We're going to go back to money quickly, just because I like specificity. And George asks a quick question. Thanks for this session. Were you able to get a part-time job without affecting studying process? And how much money, besides the program, you approximately spent in a month on food and etc.? And you don't have to answer any of that if you don't feel comfortable, but I like when people share, you know, specifics. And so were you able to get a job outside of studying, and approximately what was the monthly budget looking like?
The way Yale was set up, we had work study. So work study was the school assigning us work for this reason. Because everything is so rigorous and it's hard to get a job outside of the hours, the school would set aside hours for us to be able to work, and that money was completely ours to spend as we needed. I would say how much I spent on food, that's going to depend on, like, you know, I was in a really health conscious place, and so I wanted to spend a lot more money buying groceries than eating out. There was a section of probably second year where I didn't have the time to cook the way that I wanted to. So I was eating out more and probably spending more than I wanted to on food. I would say about, gosh, please, it's so approximate, but I would say I was spending like $200 a month on food. Like that's if I could, you know, buy the groceries and cook and then occasionally eat out less. It was probably a little more when I had to eat out. But that is such a general, I wish I could give you real numbers.
All this is extremely approximate, but yeah, that makes sense. Makes
and then you're thinking about rent, right? You're paying your rent, you're paying for food. Are there any extra things that you need? Are you paying for gym? Does the school pay, you know, your gym? Like, what are the extra lifestyle things you need?
Great.
Yeah. And in addition to the work study, you can also just pick up other, you know, jobs that are made available to the student list, which count as work study, but it's not assigned to you. So you can just pick it up if you have the time. I think time is the, you know, resource that you don't have enough of. But also, you know, you find other ways, like, you know, being an international student, if you're going to go back home, sublet your room. You know, that was something that helped me with the years. In terms of like groceries and stuff, I don't know. I'd have to like look at the sheet where I like note stuff, but like I don't know. Like it depends on where you're getting groceries, how often you're eating out. Do you cook? Because I know some people who didn't cook, and you know, so they found these like HelloFresh type of systems. I think I was spending like $70-80 on groceries, which would like last me a week and a half. I don't know. I don't know. I think we can have like a personal chat on finances separately. Yeah.
Cool. We'll keep moving. Great. Hi from India. I want to pursue acting professionally. Which school should I choose? Okay. We could probably answer that in some other, let's see, at home here in India or explore foreign options. Well, she's asking if she wants to pursue acting professionally, which school should she choose? At home here in India or explore foreign options? Wants to know from Anula.
Again, I would say it depends on what you want. And this is, specifically to India. If you're trying to get into Bollywood, probably don't come to a school over here. If you're trying to get into like the international market of film and theater, then yes, do consider studying abroad. But again, you don't have to do an MFA. You don't have to come to the US. And that's just research on your part. Like, I don't think anyone got into any of these schools with just being like, oh, I think I'll go like train at this place and, decide. It took me a year to like research which schools I wanted to go to, see what the application process was like, and then get into it. In India, and again, I feel like I can do a separate thing on schools in India. So, you can message me on Instagram. But yeah, I think we can go on to like Yale related or, MFA related.
It would be great if we could all if you guys are open to it and willing, I would love to interview each of you, just regardless of international status, just what your journey was like, what pieces did you do? What schools did you audition for? How did you get coaching? All that fun stuff. If you guys are open to it, we could follow up and do something else. Cool. Did you learn acting in a non-English country? If so, how did you learn about English plays such as Shakespeare?
To this, I'll say I learned a bit of Western just literature because I was studying literature in my undergrad. But one of the things I wish I did differently was I wish I read more plays before I applied to schools, because I was so ignorant of classical playwrights, contemporary playwrights, what eras, what anything. Yeah. Shame. I'm not proud of it. But
right. Yeah. But that's hard. I don't know how many libraries you have access to with those types of works or whatever. And, how do you guys feel about that is a good question as far as like the domestic, we have an advantage here because, somewhere nearby, there's probably a library with a lot of famous plays. Is that the case where you guys were? Or do you know someone in your country who did not necessarily have access to a lot of those types of works that you think are good to read?
I feel like I left at a time when I actually don't know, because I left quite young in my acting journey. We did Shakespeare in high school, but it was very much from an English perspective, right? We weren't learning it as actors, which is just a different thing. So I actually don't know about that in South Africa, personally. So I feel a little not good to speak on that.
Yeah, that feels like a tricky one to me as well. But my mind goes to, and again, to India specifically, I think I would try to find theaters that perform English plays, because not all theaters, there's so many regional theaters that, to even find a place that's performing English plays. I think the libraries, the resources, they're available, but we just don't have access to people who will give us that knowledge. So I think, again, it comes down to you yourself doing that research on Google and then going and finding those books and whatever.
Beautiful. John, want to wrap it up?
Sure. This has been amazing. Thank you guys so much for doing this. I just sort of want to hold space if there are any other sort of thoughts before we pause here. It can be anything about international studies. It can also be about drama school in general. It really, whatever sort of comes to mind for you guys.
Well, one of the things I want to say, again, this is in response to like people who ask me, is that doing an MFA specifically, especially in another country, is not something you want to do just to try out. You can try out with like shorter courses, but this is an investment, and you need to like have some clear vision or some goals, like John said, of why you want to put in 3 years and like literally tear yourself physically, mentally, emotionally, because it's just personal gain. You cannot expect any like fame or stardom to come from that. And also the decision to go abroad, not only to train but to work, and this is something I didn't know before, was questioning if there is space in the industry for someone like me. And you know, while that is growing, and while there are more characters and more roles that are being written for, you know, you name it, whatever your ethnic background is, you will feel, and you will feel like, you know, there isn't space, or you don't belong, or there isn't work for you. And that's, I think, just part of it. And I wish I had an answer, but it's something I'm experiencing as well. And also something I didn't touch on is that while you're on your while you're on your artist visa, which, you know, if you graduate and then you know, apply and get it, there's a lot of restrictions in terms of what sort of work you can do, what sort of healthcare, where you can, you know, can you travel internationally, things like that. So it's not an easy thing. It's not like, you know, you go to a school and all your troubles are solved. And so really like stay close to your like network of friends and family at home, wherever you are, because nothing can be done alone. Like, I'm not here because, you know, I did this alone. Like, yeah.
It takes a village. It really does take a village. Just going off of what Anula said, I think the biggest thing, you know, it's not easy, right? People are always like, do what you love, do what you love. Yes, 100% do what you love. And know that just because you love it, it's not always going to be easy, and it's not always going to feel nice, right? Like, I think we've all talked about, there's a lot of sacrifice, right? There's sacrifice time away from your family and friends and the people that you love. You sacrifice yourself in some ways, right? Because there's so much time that goes into all of it. There's so much emotional stuff that comes up, but I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't have it any other way, right? It's like, I look at my life and I'm like, wow, oh my word, I can't believe I did all of that. And I'm 28 and I'm really, really happy with, on the general sense, right? In general, I'm like, wow, I don't think I'm going to look back and regret anything that I've done so far. Let's see how it goes, it's crossed. But, you know, if you know with like your heart and with all the fire and passion in your body that this is what you want to do, then by all means, go for it, do it, like take all the risks, try everything, speak to as many people. The fact that you're in this community already says something that is so, like, you're already going out there and finding resources and using the resources and the time that people are offering, right? Like, keep that up and don't give up. If you know 100% that you want to do this, if you have a thought like, I might want to do something else, explore that, because this is hard. That's so rewarding.
Yes.
Beautiful ending. Beautiful ending. All right. So for those of you out there who asked questions in the chat that we weren't able to get to, no worries. We can definitely get you answers. We just didn't have time today. So just email me or John, Anthony at howtogetintodramaschool.com, John at howtogetintodramaschool.com. And we will definitely route back with these lovely ladies or any resources we have. We have a lot of relationships across the institutions and the networks of actors. So we'll help you out. That's what we're here to do. Thank you so much to Kineta and Anula and Doireann for giving us your time and your wisdom and your experiences today.
Well, thank you guys for hosting. Because, like, honestly, like Kineta said, like, talk to people, and we just don't have these resources. So grateful that y'all are doing this for international student folks, whatever.
Of course.
Thank you so much for having us.
Not a tough decision. It's definitely, we have to do this, and we can, right? Not everybody can support them in this way. So, and speaking of, John, it's a scholarship we have to create.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love the sound of that.
This call, you can go tell your friends and family, like, we are definitely creating an international student scholarship to support those extra things, all those extra things. So stay tuned. Don't have a timeline on that, but it will be soon.
That's so amazing. It makes me very emotional.
Yeah, like application costs. Oh, if you could cover that, what?
Right.
Are we doing this?
We'll keep up in the group chat. We'll keep up in the group chat about what we can do. So we'll sign off for now. Thank you everyone for tuning in, and we'll get you